This video unpacks the Florida Teacher Certification Examinations, or FTCE, Middle Grades Mathematics 5th through 9th grade. Together, we'll discuss 3 things: what content will be covered on the test and how to study for it, the most likely concepts or themes you will see on the exam, and we'll end with a few practice questions. For our full study guide, click the link right here or the one in the description. More information about that at the end of this video. Let's dive in. First up, Competency I, number sense, operations, and proportionality. This skill is about rational numbers like fractions, order of operations, radicals, as well as exponents and more. But first, you know what seems odd to me? Numbers that can't be divided by 2. Okay, quit laughing, you guys. Let's talk about ratios. A ratio is a comparison that shows the relative size of 2 or more values. A ratio can be a part-to-part comparison or a part-to-whole comparison. Let's see an example. Suppose there are 2 yellow blocks and 5 blue blocks. We can write the part-to-part ratio in several ways, using a colon, using the word 2, and using a fraction. All of these representations can be read as for every 2 yellow blocks, there are 5 blue blocks. Similarly, a ratio can be a part-to-whole comparison. Both of these part-to-whole ratios can be read as the ratio of yellow blocks to all blocks is 2 to 7. Or, for every 7 blocks, 2 of them are yellow. A ratio can also be scaled up. By doubling the amount of both yellow blocks and blue blocks, the ratio can be maintained even though there are more total blocks. We now have 10 total blocks, 4 of which are yellow. That's a ratio of 4 to 10, which can be reduced to 2 to 5. That's an equivalent ratio to the last set of blocks. Of course, this isn't the only term you'll need to know. Percentages and proportions are also important. For now though, let's move on to Competency II, algebra. In this section, you'll need knowledge of numerical and algebraic patterns, expressions and equations, quadratic and exponential functions, and more. What would I call my friends who love algebra? Got it. Algebros. Okay, my algebros, let's define 2 crucial terms, a relation and a function. A relation is a relationship between sets of values. In math, the relation is often between x values, inputs, and y values, outputs. A function is a special type of relation where each input has only one output. One way to understand the concept of a function versus a relation is to consider real-world examples. Let's take a look at these tables. Table A represents a functional relationship because each person, input, can only be in one place, output, at any given time. Every input has only one output. Beyonce went to Walmart, Drake went to Applebee's, and Jennifer Lopez went to Applebee's. Table B, on the other hand, does not represent a functional relationship because at least one input has more than one output. Specifically, the input of Walmart is linked to 3 different types of products: home decor, groceries, and sporting goods. A function cannot have an input with 2 or more different outputs. In that example, only table A is a function. You know, that reminds me of what people say about math teachers. They never get old. They just lose some of their functions. Get it? Let's go into Competency III, geometry. Here, you'll need to know properties of polygons and circles, attributes of 3-dimensional solids, and how to use everything you know about shapes to solve for area, circumference, volume, and more. You know, I actually missed geometry class once. Yeah, I sprained my ankle. Get it? Luckily, there's one concept I know well: triangle properties. In any triangle, the sum of the interior angles is always 180 degrees. An exterior angle of a triangle is an angle formed by one side of the triangle and an extension of the adjacent side of the triangle. There are 6 exterior angles for every triangle. The properties of these angles are: the sum of an interior angle and its exterior angle is always 180 degrees. The 2 exterior angles at each vertex are vertical angles and therefore equal in measure. The exterior angles, one from each vertex, always add up to 360 degrees. The exterior angle of a triangle is equal to the sum of the 2 non-adjacent interior angles. I know, that's a lot to remember, but the most important rules are: the interior angles of a triangle, always, the sum is 180 degrees, and the exterior angles of a triangle, always, its sum to 360 degrees. Wow, great work! We're more than halfway done. Now that's a fraction I like to see. Now here in Competency IV, you'll dive into data analysis, statistics, and probability. This competency will test your ability to interpret information and patterns from a numerical data display and to determine the theoretical probabilities of outcomes. Whew, that was a mouthful. For now, we're going to talk about choosing a graph or a plot. Actually, let's just skip this one. I'll do algebra, I'll do geometry, but graphing is where I draw the line. Get it? Fine. Let's talk all about it. So, statistics is the collection, organization, and analysis of data. Collected data will be categorical, using categories or groups, or quantitative, using numbers. To determine which graph is best for a particular data set, you should, number 1, determine whether the data is categorical or quantitative. 2, decide which graph will work best for the given data. Take a look at this chart to see graph names, graph data types, and what these graphs are used for. For example, pie charts, they show what percentage of the whole each category occupies, where bar graphs show total data values. Dot plots best show the mode and shape or skew of the data, where stem and leaf plots best show clusters and gaps in the data. Box plots best show statistical data, whereas histograms best show data groupings. Line graphs, those show how numerical data changes over time. Hey, great work. We're about to head into our final competency. Number 5, student reasoning and instructional practice. This final section shifts the focus a little from subject matter to appropriate methods for facilitating instruction. So lesson 1, you should never call your students average. Well, why? It's mean. For lesson 2, let's talk about types of assessment, starting with informal and formal assessments. Informal assessments happen throughout your instruction. A lot of informal assessment occurs through observation. Teachers may notice students' facial expressions and comments, and they may also prompt students to respond to questions using signals such as thumbs up or down. Formal assessments can happen both during and after an instructional unit. They are planned ahead of time and involve some type of set scoring guidelines. They include things like quizzes, tests, and projects, or even writing assignments scored with some kind of scale or rubric. Assessments may also be formative or summative. Formative assessments are assessments that form instruction. They are used to guide instruction, meaning they are administered to assess students' progress. They help teachers like you answer the question, what do I teach next? On the other hand, summative assessments are assessments of learning. They are used to gauge instruction by determining whether or not students mastered a learning objective. Teachers use them to answer the question, what did my students learn? Hey, congratulations! You've reached the end of our final competency. Now, it's time to test your skills with practice questions. And don't worry, I know your answers won't be obtuse or acute. They'll be just right. First question. In an omelet made of only cheese and eggs, the ratio of ounces of cheese to total omelet weight is 2:7. So, how many ounces of egg are needed to make the jumbo 21-ounce omelet? Remember our discussion about ratios? Using this part-to-whole ratio, we should end up with the answer. A. In every 7 ounces, 2 ounces are cheese and 5 ounces are egg. Multiply 3 by the jumbo omelet to find that 15 ounces of egg are needed. Next up, students in Mr. Jaffrey's class were discussing in pairs if the following mapping diagram represents a function. As Mr. Jaffrey was circulating, he overheard Rena tell her partner that the relation is not a function because every input gives the same output. Of the following, which is the best response for Mr. Jaffrey to give Rena? The first step here is figuring out whether this is a function or not. Remember, the only thing that determines if a relation is a function is if each input gives only one output. This is true for this relation, so it is a function. Therefore, the correct answer is C. Hey, let's keep it up. Which type of graph or chart would be best used to show comparisons between the volume of water drunk by athletes competing in 2 different sports? Think back to that table, back in Competency IV. Which graphs are used to compare categorical data? You got it. The correct answer is A. Here, each category is the sport. The height of the bars would be the volume of water. All right, last one. A teacher is monitoring her class while the students are involved in a group activity exploring the size of angles in a set of triangles. She moves from group to group, pausing and watching the group dynamics. What the teacher is doing can be best described as what? This question combines those definitions of formal versus informal and summative versus formative. It's a tricky one. The answer here is D. The teacher is listening and watching as she informally assesses student understanding of the concept, angle measures in triangles. And that's the end of our practice questions. I really think you're ready to ace the FTCE Middle Grades Mathematics 5th through 9th exam. And if you're still nervous, you can always count on 240 to help. Congratulations on finishing the video. If you found it helpful, give it a like. There's still plenty more to learn. Did you know that our study guide has hundreds of practice questions? If you really want to make sure you're prepared for the FTCE Middle Grades Mathematics 5th through 9th exam, take the next step and subscribe to the 240 study guide. It has hours of videos, so you can watch and or listen while you're doing chores. It is test-aligned, so you know precisely what you need to study. It has hundreds of practice questions, so you can be sure you're ready. And it has the money-back guarantee. So, click the link below right now to get started.